Got a little comparison going on here. This is the one I started to clean up. That's the second one over there. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna come in here. We're gonna gasket match the exhaust and intake ports right here. So here's where you can see that I'm dressing that up with the rotary tool. There's my rotary tool. I'm gonna get that in there and then I'm just gonna clean it up, and you might be able to see my scribed line in there. So we're just touching that up all the way along. We're gonna clean that up, remove a little bit of material, not a lot, just enough to open up the port here. Here's where you can see the old one. You can actually see from the discoloration here, see where it's black? That's the amount of material that I'm removing. Just kind of open it up around here and then blend it in. Right there might be a good angle where you can see again, that's the amount of material that you could clean up, open that up. And lastly on this one here. Again, using the rotary tool, we're gonna come in here and very minimal on this one here, like just basically just touching the edges on this one here. Same thing, we're gonna get that gasket and we're going to put that on there, and we're going to scribe our lines or use a marker or whatever. Just minimal amount on this one. It's a little harder to see with this old one here, but you might be able to see just a little bit of discoloration. You see how there's very little material to take away. This one might be a little better example. You can see both on this side here and here. Pretty much just breaking the edge, kind of. And then other than that, it's just going to be a matter of cleaning it all up and chasing the holes with the tap and clean it. And I'm going to be using brake cleaner myself to try and clean it up for the reassembly. I'm going to be removing the spring to change the oil seals right here. And to do that, this is the tool that I've got. That's how that fastens on there, and then you're going to use a 3/4 wrench to turn this around to compress the spring. Once you've got the spring compressed, I got a magnet on the end of here that's going to catch these little keepers and take them out, and then once that's taken off, you can remove the valve. You might need a rubber hammer to give it a little pop to break it free. Sometimes the keeper gets stuck in there. If we're going to go through the trouble of replacing these oil seals on here, I feel that we might as well give the seat a scrub. So what I'm doing here is I've got the valve, and I get some grinding compound here. I'll put it on there, and I'm going to use some WD-40, and I'm going to use that to lubricate the stem as well as spray inside where we're going to be grinding. We'll push the valve in, and then what I do on this side is I connect the drill on the valve stem, and then I just operate this drill very slowly, and then I pull it in and out very slowly, just to resurface that valve and the valve seat. Hopefully we don't have any lost compression. We're draining the fluid out of the block because we kind of missed that step before when we removed the heads, made a mess. So if we take a look on the driver's side, that plug is going to be, in my case, it's a 5/8 socket to take that plug out, and it's right there, right beside my block heater plug. Again, that's on the driver's side, directly above the front differential. When that comes down, that's just going to hit the differential and spray all over the place. You kind of got to be prepared for that too, unless you find a way to get something to capture it above the front diff here. We started doing some cleaning here, and what we're going to do is we're going to use the scraper, and we're going to scrape off the surfaces here where the gasket was. And it seems to me that bottom here and the bottom there, the material was easy to lift off if there was any material stuck to the metal at all. So I think, again, that's probably one of the spots where the antifreeze was leaking by. So I'm using the wire wheel for this surface here and on here where the gaskets will mate, but I don't want to use that on my piston or inside the cylinder walls there. So in that case, what I did was I did try to lightly scrape off the top of the pistons with a scraper, nothing too drastic, just try to help lift off some of that gunk that's on there. And then I'm using a spray cleaner, and then I'm using some Scotch-Brite, and I just keep going over it. So this is probably after the second go over with that cleaner and Scotch-Brite. Just keep working it off. The cleaner should loosen it up pretty good, and then you can lightly lift that off there with the Scotch-Brite without damaging the piston or the cylinder walls and bore here. Just finished doing some valve work here. All we're doing is reconditioning the valve in the seat, the contact area there. What we'll do is we'll just grab our valve and we're going to put some grinding compound on there. When we install it, we're going to use some WD-40. We're going to spray it in there so it's lubricated, and then we're going to attach our drill to the end of the valve, and then we're just going to turn it slow, and we're going to push in and out slowly, slow RPM, and just let the grinding action do its work there. You can see here we've just reconditioned these valve seats in here, and again we've reconditioned our valves as well. Another thing that I did was I just got the rotary tool and I just did a little cleanup work inside there. Not anything extensive, but just kind of removed a little bit of material and try and make the area consistent on all of them. Next, we install our valve stem seals. I'm going to install all of those on all the way through, and then what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to lubricate the end of the valve and then just slowly turn it as I push it through the valve stem seal when we install that. And then we're just going to reinstall all of our valves and springs and keepers and everything. We're reassembling these heads after we've cleaned them all up, cleaned all the parts up. We give the valve and the valve seat a quick touch up with some grinding compound, kind of recondition those seats. We gasket match both the exhaust and intake ports. Well, basically we're going to put the gasket up against there, scribe our lines, and then we're going to chew out enough material up to that line there. There's a little bit of work on the exhaust, but admittedly practically none on the intake side. We take a look here at the intake side, and there was really nothing to do there. Those ones were fine. And then what I've done is I've installed all of my valve stem seals all the way along here. And then what I'll do is I will rotate the valve as I install it from the other side, pushing through the lip of the seal there slowly, gently. That's how I'm going to do it. We're going to reinstall our valves here, valve through the seal, our spring, our retainer, and then our little clips there to hold everything together. And that's the other one that we've already completed there. We got in here, we cleaned everything up, ready for our installation. Once those heads are done, just kind of a common practice kind of thing to do. I take number one cylinder, I put it at top dead center, and you can see the mark down there lines up. And also you'll notice that the rotor is faced that way. When you put the cap on, that's going to be pointing towards your number one cylinder. We're all happy with that. I don't think there's anything else to be done other than prep everything for our final install of the heads here, which will be, we're going to chase all the threaded holes with a tap. We're going to clean everything really well. And then when we install our new gaskets, there's nothing that goes on them. They just install dry. So we want really clean surfaces both sides before we do that. We're installing the cylinder heads here, and we've got our bolts all cleaned up. And in my case, that's going to be a 5/8 socket for the head. The threads are a 1/2-inch coarse thread, so I tap those out with a tap, and then we want to clean both surfaces really well. I've used acetone to clean both the head and the block when it's super clean, and then we'll put our gaskets on dry. We've got our gasket, and it's got its locating pins in there, so that's going to determine which way it goes on. Pretty self-explanatory, I suppose. And so we've got the passenger head on, and we've torqued that down, and according to the instructions out of the manual, it's going to be 50 foot-pounds to start with, and then it's going to go to 105. Now there's a torque pattern in there, but what I do is I start from the center and then I spiral clockwise outwards until we reach the end. In the manual here, this is where it's saying you're going to start at the top center, and then you're going to tighten all the cylinder bolts in sequence, 50 foot-pounds to start with, and then you're going to repeat it to 105 foot-pounds, and then you're going to repeat it again to 105 foot-pounds just to be sure everything's good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to go clockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's just the way I've always done it, and I'm just going to continue to do it that way. But obviously, if you take a look in here, it's a little bit different. We're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it's the same difference. In my case, it's going to be a spiral clockwise rotation. Nice and easy to follow. What I do is I like to put some oil on my threads when I torque that in there. Some do, some don't. It's just an engine oil or something equivalent to that, just to lubricate the threads. You want to find a comfortable spot in here because that head's going to be pretty heavy, and reaching over the front or the side of the vehicle to install that is going to be bad on the back. Try and steady the head somewhere, crawl in there, so you got a little better chance at manipulating this thing when you're trying to install it. And also too, there's crap in the way that's going to give you trouble. Like we've got this fuel line here, and then on the other side we had a exhaust pipe that was close to the bottom corner of the block there. Things to consider while you're installing that cylinder head. We used the wire brush to clean up them push rods and sandblasted the rockers because there's all the little nooks and crannies and stuff like that. You're going to want to blow the hole out in the center of the push rod, make sure there's no restrictions in there and it's clean, because that's the oiling system that goes down from the lifter up to the rocker arm there. Right in there is where you can see that hole, and then that hole continues down to the push rod, and then it goes down to the lifter there. So you want to make sure that's clean. There's going to be holes in the head gasket that those push rods are going to go through, help kind of guide them to where they need to be. What I do is I hold the bottom of the push rod firmly against the lifter while I'm tightening up the rocker to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be, lined up and then torqued down. We want to torque that down according to the book. It's 21 foot-pounds. Here's a page here with some torque specifications here. And the one that we're looking at is the rocker arm bolts, and that's going to say 21 foot-pounds.